Big stories, short time. Welcome to Story in Shorts 01.
You were told to leave.
So what are you still doing in town, old man?
I'm here with my family, making memories. Tell your boss I'm on fucking vacation!
Hutch Mansell is in an elevator packed with gangsters when one flashes a gun. In a blink, he snatches the weapon and opens fire, demanding the data card. The rest pile on, and a brutal brawl explodes. Hutch pistol whips one guy, boots another in the chest, and drops the rest with a flurry of punches. When the nervous one reaches for his iPhone, Hutch shuts him down. Using the handset itself as a weapon, he smashes teeth out, slams a skull into the wall, and rips the data card from the guy's pocket. Another thug rises with a gun, but Hutch casually dismantles it mid-grapple and turns the pieces into a killing blow. The doors slide open, and Hutch is met with Italians spraying MP7 submachine guns. He tosses a gas cylinder, which blows them away before stepping into the car park, only to be greeted by Brazilians with machetes. Strapping a metal pole to his arm like a shield, Hutch dives back in. Steel clashes and blood sprays as he cuts them down, driving blades deep and walking out the only man still standing. Afterward, Hutch goes to the barber and hands over the data card. Once the information is pulled, the barber tells him he is $800,000 closer to clearing his debt and calmly lays out the next job waiting for him. When Hutch says he can't take it, the barber reminds him that they stepped in and paid off his debt to the Russians after Hutch burned their entire stack of cash, assuring him that at this pace, the obshok should be fully settled by spring.
I'm trying to help you pay off a debt. One, we very graciously paid on your behalf when you burnt all the Russians' stack of money.
Hutch hesitates, admitting that the work is pulling him further from his family, that he is rarely home, missing dinners, and carrying a guilt that is starting to weigh on him. He asks for a break before the next job, but the barber only sneers, telling him this life is in his nature and will follow him wherever he tries to go. Hutch later recalls a flyer he noticed after dealing with the Brazilians, an ad for Plummerville, the same place his father once took him and his brother as kids. He shows it to Becca, who points out how old the commercial looks and wonders if the place even still exists. But Hutch insists it does, from the water park to the duck boats. Sammy lights up at the idea that her grandpa will be coming too. As Hutch pitches the trip, he notices Brady's black eye and asks about it, only for Brady to say someone fouled him during a game. Hutch admits that his father only ever took them on one vacation, the trip to Plummerville, and says he wants to make more happy memories now, something to hold on to for the harder times ahead.
In life, when times get tough, you need to have happy memories to carry you through it. I just want to show you guys the place that made me happiest. Make some memories for you. Would you let me do that, please?
Once they agree, they pick up David from the retirement home, who has been clearly clapping the old chicks, and after Hutch urges him to put out his cigar, they hit the road. On the drive, David appears to rob a grocery store, shows Sammy how to use a camera, and the family sings together until they finally reach Plummerville. Hutch takes the kids to their room where they complain about having to share, while David suggests they all stay at his old lodge instead. Becca declines, and David gives his room to Brady, choosing to stay alone in the lodge. Hutch and Becca head to their honeymoon suite, taking in the space before they start to kiss, until Sammy bursts in, insisting they go to the water park. As the family makes their way there, Hutch fills them in on the place's history, only for them to be told the park is closed for the day and handed hot dog coupons instead. David storms off toward the old lodge while the rest head for food, where Hutch drifts into a memory of being there as a kid with his brother and a younger David, all of them laughing together. The moment breaks when the sheriff confronts him, trying to intimidate him even after Hutch apologizes for staring.
It's not polite to eyeball the law.
Oh, sorry, officer.
It's sheriff.
Did I do something wrong?
I don't know. Did you?
But Hutch ignores it and brings the hot dogs back to his family. Later, inside the arcade, Hutch tries to talk to Brady about the black eye again, only for Brady to admit he didn't get it during the game, refusing to explain further and saying only that he won and doesn't want to talk about it. Hutch tells him they'll deal with it later and steps away to rejoin Becca. A group of girls starts checking Brady out, and he casually hands over some of his tickets as gifts, then uses the rest with Sammy to pick out prizes. That's when trouble arrives. One of the girl's boyfriends, Max, storms over and starts taunting Brady, calling him a nerd and demanding an apology.
Tell me you're sorry.
For what?
For hitting on my girl. You're giving her tickets, man.
No problem. What if I tell you to fuck off? Does that count?
When Brady refuses, Max grabs Sammy's prize and rips it in half. But Brady responds by punching him and twisting his arm until a security guard rushes in and yanks Brady away. When Max hurls a ball at Brady, Hutch catches it just in time. As tensions rise and Hutch is on the verge of clashing with the guard, Becca steps in and says they're leaving, and Hutch agrees, even as Brady tries to explain that they weren't the ones at fault. As they walk out, Sammy bends down to retrieve her doll, and the guard slaps her on the head. Hutch tries to let it go for Becca's sake, but the restraint doesn't last.
What? I left my phone. I'll be right back.
No, Hutch! Hutch, no! No!
Storming into the arcade, he drops the guard with a punch and takes out his buddy next. When another man jumps in, Hutch grabs a metal piece and slaps him across the face before slamming his head against a whack-a-mole machine until it breaks. New high score unlocked. Finally, he turns his attention to the guard, smashes his head through a glass panel, then painfully violates him in front of everyone.
How's that feel?
Just as Hutch is lost in the violence, Becca's voice cuts through, snapping him back to reality. In the next scene, Hutch and Brady are in the sheriff's office, while Becca is left fielding questions about whether her son has violent tendencies. In the back, Brady admits he thought Hutch's way of handling the bullies was cool, but Hutch shuts him down, telling him it wasn't, and that he needs to be better than his old man, not lose control the way he did.
You serious? You tell me to stay cool, but then you go and lose your which I thought was awesome, by the way. You know, the way that you...
No, I'm just saying, you have to be better than your old man.
Whatever.
Just then, the sheriff steps in and leads Hutch to his office, where a man is waiting. The man introduces himself as Wyatt Martin, a wealthy businessman who reveals that the boy Brady punched at the arcade is his son. Hutch calmly explains that he only snapped because one of the guards smacked his daughter, then asks Wyatt what he would have done in his place.
But you should watch the security cam footage because one of those guys smacked my daughter and I lost it. What would you have done?
The man doesn't answer and only tells Hutch to leave. But on his way out, the sheriff quietly orders his men to prepare and eliminate Hutch.
Didn't Wyatt say to leave him alone?
I don't give a fuck what Wyatt says. Get rid of him.
Meanwhile, as soon as the family gets back, Becca unloads on Hutch for bringing that other side of himself on the trip with them. She tells him he is the reason Brady is already showing aggression, that Brady has been watching him closely and learning from what he sees. Hutch apologizes, but Becca presses him about the black bag he has been carrying around and deliberately keeping from her. Hutch tries to explain that he's only trying to keep the promise he made to her, but she doesn't accept it and moves to open the bag herself. Inside, she finds a bottle of wine from Puglia, the place they met, from the year they were there. Becca apologizes, and Hutch explains he ordered it on eBay, that it took 6 weeks to arrive. It clicks for her that Hutch has been planning this trip that long. She later admits that from the first moment she met him, she knew he was dangerous. He was covered in blood, after all. The next day, Becca discovers she is unexpectedly skilled at darts while playing with Brady. As the family moves together from one area of the park to another, enjoying themselves, David spends the time alone at the lodge. Hutch soon notices an officer stalking them, and on the way to the duck boats, he spots the same officer again, now approaching with 3 other men. Hutch quickly steers his family toward a boat, joking that he has eaten too many churros and his stomach can't take it, then redirects the thugs to another boat. Before anything can escalate, the boat passengers arrive and the boat pulls away. Out on the water, the men press Hutch on why he's still in town, and he answers plainly that he is there for his family and nothing else. But they aren't interested. When Hutch tries to say more, they attack. Hutch dodges blow after blow, redirecting their strikes into each other and even tossing one man overboard. When the officer jumps in, he accidentally gets kissed in the face with a metal pole by his own guy. Hutch keeps fighting, landing heavy shots, still trying to de-escalate. But the officer isn't listening. He pulls a blade and slices off Hutch's pinky, sending it splashing into the lake. Hutch reaches for it, only to watch a fish swim up and grab its snack. Before he can react, another punch sends him crashing into the water. On the boat, the men argue over how a random family man is giving them this much trouble.
You're gonna pay us a lot more fucking money now, Dan.
Lost a tooth.
That's when Hutch erupts from the water, bloody, fingerless, and furious. Without a word, he tears back into them, a brutal callback to the bus fight from part 1. He drives a boat anchor into one thug, kicks him into the lake, then pummels the officer again and again, yelling out loud that he's just a family man on vacation. If you watched part 1, which fight was better, the bus or the boat? Let me know in the comments. After the fight, Hutch calls his brother Harry, who has just returned from Osaka. When Hutch mentions Plummerville, Harry explains that it sits along an old trade route from the bootlegging era, then reveals that David was on a mission there long ago. The real reason that place became their one and only family vacation.
Were you saying he was on a mission?
You got it, Hutchy boy.
Oh, yeah.
He adds that the police in Plummerville are tied in with a larger syndicate and would have no interest in someone like Hutch lingering around. At the same time, the sheriff stands with Wyatt inside a warehouse, overseeing a shipment that includes stacks of cash and a biological weapon intended for someone named Lendina. Wyatt makes a point of reminding the sheriff who is in charge before walking out. Meanwhile, Becca returns with the kids and quickly realizes Hutch isn't there. When Sammy notices a wolf dog nearby and wonders about it, Becca explains that animals like that need to be shown the world is safe. Back in the warehouse, the sheriff gets a call from one of his officers who tells him Hutch took all of them down by himself and left him behind with broken teeth, adding that Hutch clearly isn't just some random tourist. Elsewhere, Hutch contacts the barber and asks about Plummerville, and the barber explains it's far more than a quiet vacation town, describing it as a hidden pipeline for drugs, weapons, viruses, and every kind of poison imaginable, with shipments coming down from Canada and disappearing into the system. The barber warns Hutch about Lendina, a ruthless crime lord who operates alone and answers to no one, explaining that unlike the Russians, she wouldn't threaten or negotiate, but would wipe out his entire family on his front lawn and force him to watch. He urges Hutch to de-escalate before the situation spirals further, then quietly gives him an address anyway. At the same time, Lendina murders a man in one of her casinos for cheating and orders her men to leave no witnesses behind. Elsewhere, Wyatt spends time with his son, who tells him his arm is nearly healed when Lendina calls. Wyatt insists this shipment will be his last, that once it's finished, his father's debt will finally be cleared. But Lendina only laughs, telling him the debt will never be paid.
Ain't nothing funny about what I said.
She twists the knife further, mocking him that his father died because he was distracted, warning him not to make the same mistake. After hanging up, she dials the sheriff, ordering him to take something Wyatt cares about, just to remind him where he stands. Later, Hutch arrives at Lendina's warehouse and confronts the sheriff. He pours gasoline over a pile of money and lights a flame, threatening to torch everything and leave the survivors to face Lendina's wrath. With no other choice, the sheriff listens as Hutch tells him he wants nothing more than to be left alone with his family because he's on vacation.
I just want a fucking break. So if I walk out of here, you leave me and my family alone. Because that's all I want, to de-escalate this.
Are you kidding me? From the moment you've shown up, you've put my men in the fucking ER. There's no way you were just some family man. De-escalate? You. Plummerville was A-okay before you showed up.
Wherever I go.
You know, I could so easily kill you right now. But you're lucky. You catch me on a good day. Get the out of here.
Reluctantly, the sheriff agrees and promises to back off. As Hutch turns to leave, the bully from the arcade, Max, suddenly stumbles out of a black van. Hutch notices him but walks away. Outside, Hutch drives off but quickly changes his mind. He returns to free Max, cutting through the thugs in a ruthless assault. In the chaos, one man slams Hutch onto a table and fires up a circular saw, trying to drive it into his skull. But Hutch pulls an Uno reverse, killing the man with his own weapon. He frees Max, sets the warehouse on fire, and drives away as the building explodes, sending dollar bills raining from the sky. At this point, I'm convinced the fire department has Hutch on speed dial. When Lendina hears she has lost everything, the cash, the chemicals, the bioweapons, and her men, she erupts in fury and vows revenge on Hutch.
Does nobody play by the rules anymore? Jesus Christ. I don't know who the fuck you are, but you crossed a line, asshole.
She then receives a call from the sheriff, who somehow survived the explosion.
You might want to bring some others, all right? How many of your, soldiers can you bring with you? Because he's...
Oh, shut the fuck up. I'm on my way. This guy's an idiot.
Meanwhile, Hutch brings Max to a cabin where Becca, the kids, and David are waiting. Becca confronts him, reminding him of his promise to keep danger away from the family. Hutch admits she's right, that he can't control this, and maybe he should stay away. But Becca tells him that even with all his flaws, he's still a husband and father, and now it's on him to make things right.
So go fix that.
Following this, Hutch heads to Wyatt's office. Wyatt lashes out, asking why Hutch is still in town, but calms when Hutch explains he saved his son from Lendina. The two share a tense heart-to-heart. Wyatt is stunned when Hutch reveals he burned everything.
You burned all of it?
Yep.
You burned the money.
And whatever was in those chemical barrels, they exploded.
You burned all of it?
I saved your son.
He warns that Lendina is known for erasing entire bloodlines for less. Wyatt then opens up about his own past. His father built the empire but got entangled with Lendina, and she killed him. Decades later, Wyatt is still paying for those mistakes.
Lendina has run this town for 2 generations. I will not let my son be forced into this.
So what would she do if she found out you burned her stash?
You burned it.
Okay, what would she do?
He then shows Hutch his father's secret stash, weapons he had prepared to use against Lendina, but never got the chance. Deciding to work together, Hutch and Wyatt clear the water park of tourists and begin setting up defenses as Lendina and her army march toward town. That's when Harry suddenly shows up, telling Hutch he's here to help with his existential crisis. With David's support, the group rigs the park with traps and weapons, turning it into a fortress. Once ready, Harry heads back to the cabin to protect the rest of the family. In the car, after tracking Hutch's family to the cabin, Lendina sends a squad to wipe them out while she and the rest of her men head to the water park. When they arrive, the sheriff steps forward first, approaching Hutch and Wyatt, who are waiting. He tells them to surrender and walk with him quietly, promising he might spare them.
What if we say no?
All hell breaks loose.
Yeah, we'll take that. Yeah.
When they refuse, he warns that all hell will break loose and turns to leave, only for Lendina to order her men to shoot him dead. Gunfire erupts as Hutch and Wyatt scatter into the park. Wyatt detonates the explosives they rigged, while Hutch lures the enemy deeper into the traps. He mows down groups with his machine gun, then leads others into a chamber where he burns them alive with his favorite weapon of choice. A stray dog joins in the chaos, distracting one thug long enough for Hutch to finish him off. The rest are driven into more traps, shredded, and blown apart. In the crossfire, Wyatt takes a bullet to the leg but still manages to drop 2 more goons before crawling for cover. At one point, Hutch charges onto a water slide, triggering hidden spikes that impale a thug instantly. Pushing forward, he draws more enemies into an ambush where David waits with a heavy machine gun. David tears into them mercilessly, mowing them down until a goon with a grenade launcher fires and obliterates his position. Meanwhile, at the cabin, Harry arrives silently through the woods, eliminating Lendina's men one by one before stepping out to confront the rest. Drawing a katana, he faces the enemy captain. Steel clashes in a duel of speed and precision. The captain brags that he took the head of the last man who challenged him. Harry responds by slicing through his machete, and in one clean motion, splits the man's head in 2.
Don't bring a machete to a fucking katana duel. That's principle number 1.
At the cabin, one thug breaks inside. Brady quickly leaps onto his back and locks him in a chokehold. The man pleads for his life, and after a tense moment, Brady chooses to let him go. Back at the park, Hutch finally comes face to face with Lendina. She launches into a classic villain monologue, yapping about her power and demanding to know who sent him. Hutch answers for like the 11th time. He's just a family man on vacation.
What I don't like is people who try to fuck up my peace of mind. But you know, I'm just like that.
Lendina then orders her 2 female enforcers to take him down. Hutch fights back, dodging and countering. But with the power of feminism, they manage to subdue him. Lendina circles, taunting him about crossing the wrong bitch. Bored of her own speech, she orders her goons to finish him. Just as she's about to pull the trigger, a gunshot cracks. Wyatt puts a bullet through her head, then drops the other enforcer as she charges. But Lendina isn't finished. With her last strength, she hurls a knife into Wyatt's chest and turns to end Hutch herself. Before she can, a dart slams into her chest. She looks up to see Becca, who calmly introduces herself as Hutch's better half. Basically a PTA mom with DLC unlocked. Without hesitation, Becca fires a second dart straight into her eye. Bullseye achievement unlocked. With more goons closing in, David jolts awake and shouts for everyone to take cover. He triggers a series of explosions that rip through the water park, consuming everything in fire. Lendina is caught in the blast, smiling defiantly as she burns, while Hutch and Becca cling to each other in the water. The next scene cuts to an interrogation room. Hutch, Becca, and the stray dog sit across from 2 detectives. When asked who they are, they answer,
We're married.
Yeah, we're married.
Moments later, one detective gets a phone call, with someone shouting in his ear, A beat later, he hangs up and tells them they're free to go. Later, the family is back together, flipping through photos of their trip to Plummerville. They laugh at the chaos, joking about how they somehow made it back in one piece. Hutch soaks in the warmth of the room, finally letting himself believe they'll be okay. And for those of you still here, remember Max's girlfriend from the arcade, the one who checked out Brady? Yeah, she's his girl now, even though Brady and Max are supposed to be friends. I guess beating him in a fight right in front of her made things interesting. Let me know in the comments, which did you enjoy more, part 1 or part 2? And if you haven't seen part 1 yet, the first link in the description has you covered.